What's the point of reading? Why do we read? Why would you want to read? What are the benefits? Let's find out. The really cool thing about reading is that it acts like a simulation. Okay, so think of like a virtual reality headset. Like it's like when you enter a book, it's like you're putting on the VR headset and now you're entering into that world even though it doesn't exist and it's not real. So whether you're reading non-fiction or fiction, the part of your brain that processes language activates. But only when you're reading fiction, when you're reading story and narrative, does your mind activate the areas in which it would use if it was actually participating in what you're reading about. So if I was to read about someone riding a bike, the part of my brain that would activate when riding a bike activates even though I'm not really riding a bike. We can make it more relatable in terms of our relationships. So if you're actually reading about relationships and family troubles or relationship troubles or things like that, it actually puts you in place of that character, and now you can kind of work on your decision making and your perspective through the lens of this character. Even though you're not experiencing anything, you're learning as the character learns. What this does is trains the thing in the brain that's called the theory of mind. This is the part of the brain that focuses on empathy and how to have compassion and empathize with people in their situations. As a result, you will have a deeper level of thinking when it comes to your decision making. And if troubles do arise in your life with relationships or whatever it may be, you now have more in your toolbox, I suppose, to actually draw on to help you form a decision. Another awesome benefit of reading is that it acts as an escape. So a lot of people call it escapism. All that means is that when you read a book, it literally takes your brain somewhere else. So your brain will compartmentalize your reality from the book that you're reading. And so you get immersed and engaged in the book that you're reading, and it's as if you've escaped from your current situation. Now, as unhealthy as that may sound, to avoid your reality, what actually happens is when you escape into this new place, it allows for a place of deep contemplation. And so now, kind of like the simulation thing, you can kind of take your deep contemplative thoughts in the story and kind of bring them back to your reality. This is actually the reason why reading can help with things like depression and loneliness, because it actually separates you from the anxious thoughts and from everything that you're feeling and experiencing in that moment. It's almost as if you're not really you anymore, because you're stepping out into the lens of someone else. Another awesome thing about this is that it actually helps in the sense of loneliness. It helps because you can find yourself in the characters that you're reading. Often you can relate to them. And I've read before that reading can act like therapy, because you can get into this place of a character that even though they may not exist, they can relate to the things that you're feeling or going through. And even though they aren't actually experiencing it in real life, there's someone who wrote the book, who wrote that perspective, who wrote that and kind of has some understanding of it. And so it helps with those levels of loneliness that we might feel inside. If you struggle with stress, I may suggest reading for just 6 minutes. If you read for 6 minutes, undisturbed, focused reading, you can decrease your stress by up to 68% in just 6 minutes. That's nothing. Imagine if you read for 20 minutes a day. The way it would just bring your body down to an equilibrium, because what it also does is lowers your blood pressure. Because of this, reading before bed can be really good to help improve your sleep, because it's lowering your blood pressure, it's calming you down, it's reducing any stress or tension you may have in your body, and helps you to ease into sleep. I used to be a very avid reader growing up, and then for many years growing up in high school as a teenager, I stopped reading. And when I found myself trying to come back to reading, I really struggled because I couldn't focus on the page. I literally couldn't read. I just couldn't absorb the words I was trying to read. I just couldn't do it. And then it would frustrate me and I'd close the book because I just couldn't do it. What I learned is that because of our phones, because of scrolling, because you're getting flash information on social media and things like that, your brain starts to train itself to just look for the important information and doesn't actually want to go through a whole paragraph to get what it needs. I actually had to retrain myself to read by pushing through and forcing myself, and eventually my brain started to adapt to reading long form again. And what this is actually our benefit number 4, which is that reading increases your attention span. Reading does this by causing your brain to work in a sequence. So when you're reading a novel, it normally has the structure of beginning, middle, end. And reading that structure forces your brain to go, okay, there's a sequence of things going on, and it kind of links cause and effect situations. So now it stretches your attention span and causes you to have to focus more. It's like training your brain, really. And so over a period of time doing this, you actually start to increase your ability to focus as well. So really, reading acts like an exercise for the brain. And the brain can do this because of a process called neuroplasticity. In neuroplasticity, the brain creates neural pathways for itself and can actually adapt to situations and learn things again and again and strengthen those neural pathways. And reading is one of the activities that actually does that. Reading actually increases the gray matter in your brain, which holds and houses the neural pathways. It actually grows it, makes it stronger. There's been MRI testing things done in the brain where it actually, like imaging, that actually shows the gray matter actually grows and gets strengthened when you're reading. And as a result, neuroplasticity makes reading easier. So if you don't even like to read, neuroplasticity will create the neural pathways in your brain and strengthen them over time so that eventually reading becomes much easier to do. Our final benefit today is that reading increases your memory. Reading acts like a memory training. So what it does to the brain is that when you're reading, your brain has to actively remember details from the character from earlier in the book. So all throughout the book, you're having to remember what the character's gone through, names, situations, locations, backstories. You're remembering all these things, and that's actually training your brain to remember and draw information back if you need it later. And so what happens is this trains your memory to be able to recount memory quicker and to actually absorb memory quicker, which is great because it actually decreases the likelihood of Alzheimer's. And so it's really great for older people as well, anyone who's maybe susceptible to Alzheimer's and things like that, or brain deterioration. It just helps the brain to exercise and train it up and keep it healthy. As for me, I just think reading is fun. So that's my little extra bonus benefit, that reading is fun, reading is entertaining. I prefer it a lot to movies sometimes. You just get more out of it. And with those health benefits, why wouldn't you want to read? You know, like, it's just great for you. It's great for children to learn. It increases their ability to have empathy when they're learning that, especially as a child, because they're just forming those things. So you want to form them on a good foundation, and reading helps to do that. Anywho, speaking of reading, I'm going to go read right now. If you love books, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.